The storm outside the mining colony roared like a wounded beast. Metal roofs rattled and sand cut through the night air like knives. Inside a small steel cabin, a human named Darren Cole sat near a flickering light, his eyes tired and his heart heavier than the world outside. He had once been a soldier, a builder of machines that ended wars. But now he was only a man trying to forget. The war had taken everything, his friends, his home, even his reason to smile. He wanted peace, silence, and no memories, but life had other plans. When the alien refugees arrived on the edge of the colony, Darren didn't want to get involved. He just needed someone to help with cleaning, cooking, and the lonely silence that followed him like a ghost. That's when he met Cirrus, an alien widow from the planet Dareth, her skin faintly silver under the dim light, her eyes soft yet full of something broken. She carried a small child wrapped in a woven blanket. The baby looked fragile, with skin pale like moonlight and eyes that glowed faintly blue. The light pulsed softly whenever the baby breathed. It was strange, but also peaceful. Darren ignored it at first. He only thought, a mother and child, nothing more. Sarah spoke little, her voice calm and gentle. She worked quietly, never asking questions, never complaining. She cooked food with strange spices, cleaned the house, and repaired small things Darren had given up on. But sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, she would stare out the window toward the storm and whisper in her language. Words full of grief, days turned into weeks. The storm outside never really stopped, and inside Darren began to notice small things. When the baby laughed, the lights flickered. When the baby cried, the temperature dropped, and when the baby looked at him, his old cybernetic implant under his arm began to hum softly. He told himself it was nothing, just broken tech reacting to static. But deep down, something inside him stirred, something he thought he buried years ago one evening. Darren found the baby sitting on the floor near his old toolbox, the soft blue eyes staring right at him for a second. He felt a strange warmth spreading from his chest to his hand. His implant vibrated again. The baby reached out and touched his metal hand, and suddenly, the humming turned into a soft rhythm like a heartbeat. He pulled back, shocked. The baby giggled. Sarah came rushing. Fear flashing in her eyes, she picked the child up quickly and bowed her head. "I'm sorry," she said in a trembling voice. "She doesn't mean to," Darren frowned. "Mean to what?" Sarah hesitated, her silver hair hiding her face. "She feels things, she makes machines." Listen, Darren didn't understand, or maybe he didn't want to. He walked away, but all night. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those glowing eyes, that innocent face, and heard that soft heartbeat in his arm. The next day, rumors began spreading across the colony. People whispered about strange power readings, lights flickering near the old soldier's home. Someone said, "He's hiding alien tech," and others said, "That woman's child isn't normal." Darren ignored them. But deep down, a seed of fear started to grow. That night, while Sarah cooked quietly, Darren sat near his workbench. Looking at the baby's old blanket, small traces of glowing dust were on it. Like energy residue, he ran a scanner. The readings made his blood run cold. The baby's energy matched the pattern of the Terran biocore, a weapon core he helped design during the war. He leaned back, his heart pounding. "No, impossible," he whispered. He remembered the last time he saw that light. It was the day the weapon fired and millions of lives vanished. Could it be connected? Could this small child carry the same energy that once destroyed worlds? The storm howled louder outside, as if the world itself wanted to hide the truth. Darren walked into the living room. Sarah was rocking the baby to sleep. She looked up, her face calm but her eyes hiding something. "Sarah," Darren said slowly, "your child." "What is she?" Sarah looked down. "She is my daughter," she whispered, "and she is what's left of 2 dying worlds." Before he could ask more, the baby opened her eyes. The blue glow filled the room. Machines on the shelves hummed. The scanner blinked again, showing rising power. Darren felt his arm heat up, the implant responding on its own, and for a brief second, he saw something in those glowing eyes, not danger, not power, but pain. A deep and innocent sadness that reached straight into his soul. He stepped back, heart racing. As the baby smiled softly, the light faded. The machines fell silent again. Outside, the storm quieted for the first time in months, and Darren whispered to himself, "What are you, little one?" He didn't know that night would change everything, because in those tiny glowing eyes, something long buried inside him had awakened again, his lost humanity. Morning came slowly on the colony. The storm outside had faded, but inside Darren's mind, a greater storm had just begun. He couldn't forget the light in the baby's eyes, the hum in his arm, the strange sense of peace and pain mixing together. He sat by his workbench staring at the scanner results. The readings didn't lie. The child carried the same energy that once powered Earth's most dangerous weapon, a weapon that he himself helped design. Back then they called it the BioCore Project, a dream of merging human emotion with pure energy, a way to control destruction through willpower. But it ended in tragedy. Millions died when the experiment went wrong. The power fed on fear, not peace, and Darren had spent years trying to forget that he had been a part of it. Now that same energy was in this baby, a living spark of something beyond science. Sarah stood in the doorway holding her daughter, her silver eyes calm but watching. She knew what he had discovered. "You saw it," she said softly. "You felt it," Darren nodded slowly. "It's impossible." "That project died with the war." Saris looked down at her child. "No, it didn't. It changed," she said. "My husband was part of a team that tried to use the energy to heal instead of destroy. He believed humans and Dorethians could share the same soul energy. He was wrong, but he tried." Her voice trembled. "When the attack came, he died protecting us. And his experiment continued in her." She looked at the baby, who blinked with glowing blue eyes. She was born with the power to feel everything. Every emotion, every pain, every wound. Darren stared at her, unable to speak, his heart heavy. The guilt of the past mixed with the truth of the present. He thought of the people who died because of his invention, and now before him was a child born from that same fire, not to kill, but maybe to heal. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed at the door. Darren froze. Cirrus held the baby close outside. Metallic footsteps moved in the sand. Voices spoke through a radio. "Energy spike confirmed near Sector 3. Scan for illegal alien tech." Darren's pulse quickened. He peeked through the window. 2 soldiers in black armor scanned the area with energy detectors. "Terran military," Cirrus whispered. "They are looking for her," Darren whispered back. "They can't find her. They'll take her away." Without another word, he guided Cirrus to the old storm bunker under his home, a place he once used to hide equipment during raids. The air was cold and smelled of dust and metal. Cirrus shivered but said nothing. She trusted him. He closed the heavy door above them and walked back upstairs. Trying to act normal, the soldiers were already at his gate. "Citizen Cole," one of them barked. "We're detecting unusual energy readings from your home." "Step aside," Darren forced a calm expression. "Probably my generator. This place breaks down every week," he said. They entered anyway, scanning every wall. The scanner beeped near the floorboards. Darren's heart raced. He needed to distract them. "You're wasting your time," he said, trying to sound annoyed. "I've got nothing but scrap here." The soldier's scanner beeped again. Louder. Darren clenched his fists. His implant itched under his skin, and the baby's faint laughter echoed below from the bunker. He prayed they didn't hear it. Then suddenly, one of the soldiers' radios crackled. "Unit 4, report back." "We found the primary source near the refinery. Pull out." The soldiers frowned, turned off their scanners, and without another word, left. Darren waited until their footsteps faded before rushing downstairs. Saris was sitting on the floor, holding the baby tightly, tears in her eyes. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They will come again." Darren sat down beside her, breathing heavily, his metal arm still faintly warm from the stress. "Then we'll hide better next time," he said. Saris shook her head. "You don't understand. They think she's a weapon, but she's not. She's feeling all this fear, all this pain, and it's changing her." As she spoke, the baby reached out toward Darren, small hands glowing softly, and when her fingers touched his arm, the pain in his old scars disappeared. The metal shimmered for a second. Darren froze, the feeling spreading through his body. Calm, warmth, light. It was as if the world itself forgave him for a moment. "She healed me," he whispered. Saris nodded. "She heals what feels broken." Darren looked at the child, her blue eyes full of innocence and sadness. "If they find her, they'll turn her into another weapon," he said quietly. Saris whispered, "Then don't let them." He looked out the window, at the endless desert beyond, the sky glowing with red lightning from distant storms. His soldier mind began to think again. Plans, routes, hiding places. He hadn't done this in years, but the old instincts were still there. He would protect them, not because he had to, but because for the first time since the war he wanted to. As he turned off the lights and locked the door, the baby's eyes blinked once more, and his old implant glowed faintly in response. like it was alive again. Darren looked at his arm, then at the baby and whispered, "Maybe. It's time I stop running from who I was." The baby smiled, the glow fading slowly. The room went dark, silent except for the faint hum of energy under the floor. Outside, far away, in the military ship above the clouds, a signal pulsed. Unstable energy source confirmed. Prepare extraction team. And thus, without knowing it, Darren had just declared war against the very system he once served. The next morning arrived with a strange silence. The storm outside had faded into a dusty calm, and for the first time in months, the sky above the colony showed a pale slice of blue. Darren stood by the window watching the light stretch across the metal plains, his arm still faintly glowing under his sleeve, the memory of last night refusing to leave his mind. He looked at the baby sleeping in Saris's arms. Peaceful. Her small chest rising slowly, her eyes fluttering with dreams. The glow from her skin had dimmed, but the warmth remained in the room. It felt almost human. He had spent years fixing machines, patching walls, and welding metal. Yet he had never seen anything like her, the way she could make his old wounds fade, the way the cold inside him softened when she smiled. He didn't understand how it worked, but deep down, he didn't want to question it anymore. Saris was humming softly, a tune from her homeworld, her voice light as wind over water. She looked different now, stronger somehow, maybe because Darren had decided to protect them, maybe because for the first time someone believed she and her child deserved to live. But Darren knew danger was close. He had seen the signal pulses in the night sky. The Terran ships were still up there, scanning, waiting. The military never stopped hunting once they locked on a target, and if they found out about the child's power, they'd take her away, or worse, use her. He moved through his workshop, opening hidden compartments. Old gear from his soldier days still lay inside. Armor plating, signal blockers, portable scanners. He hadn't touched them in years, but now his hands worked with purpose. Steady and focused, Saris watched quietly. "You are preparing to fight again," she said softly. Darren shook his head. "No, I'm preparing to run," he replied. "But if they catch us, I'll be ready." Saris didn't argue. She just whispered, "You humans always fight for what you fear to lose." Darren looked at her. "And you aliens, you keep believing peace can exist without someone willing to protect it." Their eyes met for a moment, and in that silence, something changed between them. Trust. Maybe even a small spark of hope. The baby stirred, opening her glowing blue eyes. She looked around as if sensing the tension. Her gaze landed on Darren's metal arm. She reached for it, and when her tiny fingers brushed against it, the steel rippled like liquid, reshaping for a second, smoother, stronger, alive. Darren froze, staring at his arm. She changed it," he whispered. Saris smiled faintly. "She heals what feels broken, even metal, even hearts." For a long moment, Darren said nothing, his thoughts spinning. He realized she wasn't a weapon. She was something new, something beyond human or alien, a bridge between what both sides had destroyed in each other. Later that night, a message flickered on Darren's old communicator, an encrypted signal. He hadn't used that frequency since the war, but he knew who it was. Captain Rell, his former commander. The message was short, cold, and sharp. "Cole, report your location. Your area is under military surveillance. Unregistered energy detected. Failure to comply will be considered treason." Darren stared at the screen for a long time, then turned it off, his jaw tight. He knew what came next. An extraction team. Outside, thunder rumbled across the red horizon, not from storms, but from descending ships, silent dark shapes moving through the clouds. He turned to Saris. "Pack what you can carry, we're leaving." She looked at him frightened. "Where will we go?" "Farther than they can scan," he said. "There's an old mining route under the ridge. No one's used it since the collapse. It can hide our signals." She nodded and began gathering small things. The baby's blanket, a food pack, a necklace made of shimmering crystal beads. Darren grabbed tools and a rifle, his old combat instincts fully awake again. As they prepared to leave, the baby laughed suddenly, a small, bright sound that filled the cold room with warmth. But something about it made the lights flicker. The walls vibrate softly, and his scanner blinked red, showing massive energy buildup. Cirrus gasped, holding the baby close. "She feels your fear," she said. "When you are scared, she mirrors it." Darren took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Then I'll stop being scared," he said quietly. He knelt down beside the child, his metal hand gently touching her cheek. "It's okay, little one. We're not running because we're weak. We're running because we're smart," he whispered with a faint smile. The baby blinked, her glow softening. The humming slowed. Sarah stared in wonder. "She listens to you." Darren stood, his eyes hard again. "Then let's make sure she survives long enough to understand why." They stepped out into the cold night, sand crunching under their boots. The distant hum of Terran engines echoing above as they moved through the rocky dunes toward the hidden tunnels. Darren looked back once at his home. The small workshop that had once been his prison. It was now just a shadow behind him. As they reached the ridge, a blinding beam of light cut through the sky. A Terran scout ship searching, scanning. A robotic voice boomed through the air. "Unregistered bioenergy detected. Halt for inspection." Darren's pulse spiked. He whispered, "Keep moving, don't stop." Saris held the baby tight, running beside him, her breath fast. The baby started crying, the glow from her eyes brighter now, and suddenly every piece of metal around them, abandoned mining carts, pipes, debris, began to vibrate, rise and float. Darren turned, staring in awe as the child's energy formed a shimmering barrier of blue light around them. The ship's scanners hit the field and shorted out instantly. The engines faltered, and the scout veered off, losing control, crashing in the dunes far away. The silence returned, broken only by the baby's soft cooing. Saris looked at Darren, her eyes wide. "She protected us." Darren looked at his glowing arm, then at the child. A mix of pride and fear in his voice. "No, Saris," he said. "She protected me." The baby yawned, her glow fading again as she fell asleep in her mother's arms. The desert quiet and still once more. Darren looked at the night sky, the stars flickering like distant eyes, and whispered, "Maybe humanity's last hope isn't in weapons or soldiers anymore. Maybe it's in her." Far above, unseen in the darkness, the Terran command ship recorded the incident. "Unknown entity neutralized scout unit," said the mechanical report. "Target classified as Class Omega anomaly. Full strike team authorized." And the hunt began again. The desert winds had changed. The air smelled of metal and ozone, far above the red horizon. Terran warships moved like shadows of judgment, their engines humming low and cold. Darren and Saris hid deep inside the collapsed mining tunnels beneath the ridge, the faint blue glow of the baby's eyes. The only light left, Darren sat near an old console, trying to power up the comm scrambler. The air was thick with dust and silence. He could hear Saris humming softly to calm her child, her voice trembling every few words. He wanted to tell her everything would be fine, but even he didn't believe it. He had seen that kind of hunt before. Once the military labeled something Class Omega, there was no negotiation, no mercy. They would burn an entire region to ash just to erase the threat. Darren's metal arm sparked again, still resonating with the child's energy. He pressed his hand against the console. The circuits flickered alive, old lights blinking. A weak signal appeared on the screen. A military transmission, encrypted, but he could still read parts of it. "Target located near Sector 7 Ridge. Authorized strike. Captain Rel commanding." His heart tightened at the name Captain Rel, the man who once saved his life, the man who led his unit during the Biocore War. Rel was loyal but also ruthless. If he was coming, there would be no escape. Saris noticed the look on his face. "Someone you know?" she asked quietly. Darren nodded slowly. "Yes, someone I wish I didn't." She looked at him with worry. "Can he be reasoned with?" Darren gave a bitter smile. "He follows orders, not reasons." The baby shifted, Sensing the tension, her glow brightened for a moment, making the metal walls shimmer faintly. Darren looked at her, feeling the strange pulse in his chest again, that mix of fear and warmth, humanity and something more. He turned to Cirrus. "We can't stay here. If they find us, they'll destroy the tunnels." Cirrus nodded. "Then where?" "There's an abandoned relay station 5 kilometers north," he said. "If we can reach it, I can overload the satellite link and block their scanners for a few hours." She tightened her hold on the baby. "Then we move now." They stepped out into the night, the desert quiet but heavy. Stars glittered above like frozen sparks. Darren led the way through the narrow ravine, his old soldier instincts guiding him through shadow and silence. Every sound echoed too loud. Every gust of wind felt like a threat. Halfway through the ridge, a low mechanical growl filled the air. Drones hovering above the cliffs, their red lights sweeping the sand. Darren signaled Cirrus to hide behind a rock outcrop. He crouched low, hand on his rifle, his heart beating steady. When one of the drones came close, he waited, then raised his arm. The implant flared. Blue light running through his veins, he aimed and fired a small EMP burst. The drone sparked, spun, and crashed into the sand, smoke curling from its shell. Cirrus looked at him in surprise. "You used her power," she whispered. Darren exhaled slowly. "No, I think she used mine." The baby blinked in her arms, smiling softly, the faint hum of energy still echoing around them. They kept moving until they reached the relay station. A rusted skeleton of old machinery, surrounded by broken antennae. Darren forced the door open and led them inside. He started connecting wires, typing commands, his fingers fast and precise. Cirrus watched as sparks lit the room, the smell of burned metal thick in the air. Finally, the screen lit up with a faint green code. "Signal disruption ready," he said. "Once I trigger it, we'll vanish from their scans for 6 hours," Cirrus nodded. And then, he looked at her. "Then we find a ship and disappear." But before he could activate the scrambler, the room shook, a deep rumble filled the air. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then came the sound he feared most, the low screech of Terran engines overhead. A voice echoed through the radio. "Darren Cole, this is Captain Rel of the Terran Command. Surrender immediately. You are harboring an Omega-class entity. Failure to comply will result in termination." Darren's hands froze, his breath short. He remembered Rel's voice from years ago, steady, commanding. The voice of a leader who believed in victory at any cost. Cirrus whispered, "They found us." Darren took a deep breath. "Then we fight." He slammed his hand on the console, triggering the scrambler. The station lights flared bright blue. Static filled the air. The energy field burst outward like a wave, knocking the first wave of drones from the sky. Outside, explosions rocked the sand. Terran soldiers landed in armored suits. Energy rifles humming, the baby started crying, the glow in her eyes growing stronger, brighter, until the whole room shimmered with blue light. Cirrus tried to calm her. "Please, little one." "Please," she whispered. But the baby's emotion fed into the air, turning pain into power. Machines all around them came alive, old panels shook. Broken wires sparked with new energy. Darren felt the floor vibrate under his boots. He could feel her heartbeat inside his metal arm, syncing with his. The door burst open. Soldiers poured in. Rel himself at the front, his face hidden behind the battle helmet. "Darren," he shouted, "don't make this worse." "Step aside." Darren raised his weapon. "I've made enough mistakes, Rel." "Not this time." Rel stepped forward, lowering his gun. "That thing isn't a child. It's a reactor waiting to detonate. Do you want another war?" Darren's voice shook but stayed firm. "She's not a weapon. She's what we were supposed to protect." The baby's light spread, touching both men. Time seemed to slow. The sound faded. Rel hesitated, his scanner flickered, showing impossible readings, empathy waves, brain-to-brain connection patterns. He lowered his weapon slowly, whispering, "What is this?" Darren answered quietly. "It's humanity, Rel, not the kind you fight for. The kind you forgot." Then the ceiling exploded. Shrapnel filled the air. The battle outside intensified. Darren grabbed Cirrus and the baby, pulling them deeper into the tunnel as Rel shouted orders. Torn between duty and confusion, as they escaped into the dark tunnels, the sound of energy blasts echoed behind them. And Darren realized something. The war wasn't just coming back. It had already begun. The baby looked up at him, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, reflecting both the fear of destruction and the hope of rebirth. And in that moment, Darren understood she wasn't the end of the story. She was the beginning of a new one. The tunnels trembled with distant explosions. Blue light flashed through cracks in the walls as Terran soldiers advanced. Darren held Saris's hand tightly, his breath heavy, his metal arm glowing faintly in rhythm with the baby's soft hum. They had been running for hours, chased by men who once called him brother. The baby's glow was brighter than ever, her small body pulsing with waves of emotion that made the very air tremble. Saris looked exhausted, tears streaking her silver skin. "She can't control it anymore," she whispered. "The fear around her is feeding the energy." Darren looked back, his eyes filled with determination. "Then we give her something else to feel," he said. "Something stronger than fear." They reached the old geothermal core chamber deep beneath the ridge. Massive pipes and glowing veins of molten rock surrounded them. The heat shimmered in the air. This was once a power plant. Now it was a tomb of forgotten technology. Darren set the baby down gently on a metal platform, her tiny eyes flickering blue and white. The tunnel behind them shook again, the sound of boots echoing closer. Captain Rel's voice carried through the radio. "Darren Cole, surrender. This is your last warning." Darren looked at Saris. "No more running," he said, "if they want to see what she is." "Let them see." Saris shook her head in fear. "They'll kill her." "Not if I can show them the truth first," Darren replied, his voice steady now. His soldier's fear replaced by something greater. He knelt beside the child, the soft hum from her body syncing with the beat of his own heart. He whispered, "You're not a weapon, you're what comes after." He smiled faintly. "Let them feel that." The baby blinked, her small hand reaching toward his metal chest. And then everything changed. A wave of pure light burst outward. Soft but endless, time seemed to slow. The walls around them turned to mist. The Terran soldiers who entered the tunnel froze in place, their weapons falling from their hands, their helmets flickering with images, memories that were not their own. Each soldier saw something different. One saw the face of the enemy he killed. Another saw his lost child. Another felt the pain of a dying world begging for peace. The light connected them all, not through commands or fear, but through emotion. Rel stepped forward, his armor sparking, the scanner on his wrist going wild. "What is this?" he gasped. Darren turned toward him, his face lit by the soft glow. "This is what we were meant to protect," he said quietly. "This is the part of us that war can't kill." The baby's glow intensified, wrapping the chamber in a soft blue aura. Every machine, every weapon, every piece of metal began to hum in harmony. Even the molten core seemed to calm, its violent flow turning smooth and steady. Saris fell to her knees, her eyes wide, whispering a prayer in her native tongue. Tears of light sliding down her cheeks. Rel dropped his weapon, his voice trembling. "She's merging the field's human and alien biocores." "It's impossible," Darren smiled softly. "It's not impossible. It's forgiveness." Rel looked at him, speechless for the first time in years. The war hero saw the truth not in data or orders, but in the shared pulse of humanity beating in front of him. Then, without warning, the chamber ceiling cracked. The unstable core started to collapse, alarms blaring, heat surging through the floor. Saris screamed, holding the baby tight. Darren looked at Rel. "Get your men out," he shouted. "I'll hold the stabilizer." Rel hesitated, then nodded, ordering his troops to retreat. The soldiers stumbled out, dazed and changed, their minds touched by something divine. Darren turned back to Saris. "Go." "I'll stop it." Saris shook her head fiercely. "You'll die." He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but if I don't, she will." He reached out, placing his glowing metal arm onto the core's control node. Blue light surged through him, his old war implant fusing with the child's energy. Pain shot through his body, but he didn't stop. The baby cried out, reaching toward him, her eyes glowing pure white now, the energy pouring from her small body into him, merging human and alien essence into one. The collapsing core froze mid-burst, the light filling every corner of the chamber. Rel, still at the exit, turned back to see Darren standing in the storm of light, his metal arm melting into living energy, his eyes shining like twin stars. Saris screamed his name, but he only smiled, whispering through the blinding light, "Tell her to remember who she is." And then the explosion came. But it wasn't destruction, it was creation. The light expanded outward, covering the colony, the desert, the sky, and for a moment, everyone on that world, human or alien, felt each other's hearts. They felt pain, sorrow, love, and forgiveness all at once. When the light faded, the warships above stopped firing, their systems frozen, their pilots silent. Rel stood at the edge of the ridge, Watching as the dust cleared, the geothermal site was gone, replaced by a field of glowing crystal and quiet wind. In the center stood Saris holding the baby. And nothing else. No sign of Darren, only a faint echo in the air. A heartbeat fading into the horizon. Months later, peace talks began between Earth and Dareth. They called it the Crystal Accord, the day two worlds stopped fighting. And historians would later say, it started because of a man who remembered his heart. But Saris knew the truth. Sometimes she would look at the night sky, see a faint blue glow among the stars and whisper softly, he's still watching, and when the baby laughed, the stars seemed to flicker back as if answering. The legend spread across the colonies, told in whispers and light. The human who remembered his heart, and the child who healed steel, the end.